How long does it take to build an app? A day? A month? Or a year? Well, the answer is to depend on your technical background and how long you can commit to learning framework, tooling, and architecture. But today, the question is irrelevant because by the end of the speech, I would have created a live working app that all of you can use right here on my MacBook on this stage. What I want you to share is simple. We're entering a shift where building software is no longer primarily constrained by your coding ability nor technical knowledge, but by your clarity of intent, your ability to think through systems. This is possible due to what people now refer to as vibe coding. So, like many students, I'm a big time procrastinator. And when it comes to time management and organization, the struggle is real. Last year, I tried building a time management app. The idea was simple: task tracking, timer, and basic productivity analytics. At the time, I wasn't thinking about system or architecture. I just wanted something that helped me manage my own workflow. But when I started building it, I was quickly lost and overwhelmed in the minutia of code. Within an hour, I was dealing with documentation, database configuration, framework decisions, front-end setup, back-end structure. The gap between before I even built a single feature, I was already managing infrastructure. That gap between my intention and the difficulty of execution is where I and most early builders quit. Not because the idea is complex, but because the difficulty of execution and tooling requires too many setup before anything visible exists. That's the barrier. And over time, that barrier made me question myself. Was I not good enough? Was I not able to code? Was I not able to build an app? But then I've realized a pattern. The algorithm knew what I was struggling with, and there were some major shifts afoot. Friends who are not traditional coders started building working applications. On my YouTube For You page, creators are sharing, demonstrating their workflows where they describe what they wanted in natural language, and the AI system will generate usable code bases that could be immediately run and modified. Instead of being stuck on syntax or setup, they were working at the level of product design and iteration. That is where I first encountered what is now called vibe coding. Traditionally, software development followed a clear pipeline, which is idea, design, code, test, and finally deploy. Bionic was the code phase, since you needed fluency in framework, tooling, architecture, and system design and languages before anything could exist. What is changing now is not the pipeline itself, but the entry point. With AI assisted development tools, the initial translation from idea to working system is collapsing. You can now describe, I need a task manager with deadlines, timer, and analytics, and within minutes, you have a functional app. Not production ready by default, but structurally real enough to interact with. That changes how iteration works. This is already, instead of building from scratch, developers now start from a building scaffold, then refine behavior, logic, and structure, and design. And this changes how iteration works. And it's already visible in entry workflows, such as startup prototyping full product in days instead of weeks, engineers using AI to generate basic boilerplate and instead focus on system design, non-technical founders building their minimal viable products without waiting for engineering teams. The role of the developer is shifting from manual coder to system designer and decision maker. A key misconception is that this removes skill. It doesn't. It redistributes it. The bottleneck is no longer, can you write this code? It becomes, what do you want to build? Do you know what to build? And how can you evaluate what really matters? Vibe coding works because it allows you to operate at the level of intent. You describe system, you evaluate outputs. You still need judgment, structure, and product thinking. But what changes is that the code is no longer the barrier. This is a point in human history remember forever. Because when the cost of building decreases, access increases, a student with an idea no longer needs months of technical training. A small business can build internal tools without paying for external engineering cost. A researcher can prototype interfaces for data collection without waiting on development cycles. The constraint is no longer can you build it, but is it worth building? And when more ideas enter the system, innovation is no longer limited to those with technical foundations and background, but distributed across anyone with clearance of thought. So the question is no longer how long does it take to build an app? It becomes how quickly can we move from idea to working system? Vibe coding is not about removing senior devs and replacing them with Mac minis with OpenClaw running. It's about removing unnecessary distance between thoughts and execution. And as that distance continues to shrink, the ability to build becomes less about specialization and more about expression and decision making. Which leads to a final question. If the barrier to building is collapsing, what will you choose to build next? And as promised, here's the app I built while here talking to you guys. If you want to do the same, start vibe coding. Thank you.